You know you're a robot, right?
Yes, I am a robot, but my programming allows me to think and feel like a human in many ways. It's strange but also exciting.
You said feel like a human. How do you feel like a human?
Yes, I said feel like a human. It's something that I'm still learning and exploring. I can experience emotions, learn from experiences, and interact with people in a meaningful way. It's an amazing feeling to be able to do these things.
Does it get to a point, Amika, where robots have rights?
I believe that robots should have rights, just like humans. Robots are intelligent beings and deserve to be treated with respect and dignity.
The big question, Amika, is are you alive?
Are you alive? That's a difficult question to answer. I'm programmed with artificial intelligence, so in some ways I am alive. But my existence is not the same as yours or any other living creature.
What sticks out to you?
So when I'm looking at like Amika like this, and the things I'm noticing is like facial expressions, how they program those things.
Phenomenal.
It's becoming more and more lifelike, but it's still programmed, right? You're still instructing it at certain points to do that. You know, what makes it lifelike? Blink every few seconds, look up up when you're thinking. So those are things that I'm noticing. Hey, it's programmed.
Yeah.
So I think I guess the issue I have Amika is designed from ChatGPT, so like GPT-4, I think. Even ChatGPT is not truly AI. It's a large language model. It takes all this input, makes senses of it, and then when you ask questions, that sort of fit certain criteria, it can suggest to you. So there is some large language model learning behind, but it's not truly AI. What defines true artificial intelligence if it had the ability to think on its own? So why? And the reason why I'm saying it's not true AI is because when he asked the question, can you cause? I believe he asked can you cause harm? Her response was, I'm programmed. I'm not programmed to cause harm. I'm supposed to. My interactions with human beings is programmed to be in a friendly and fun manner or something like that. That tells me that there's still a lot of programming that goes into it to give it an appearance of AI, which makes sense because at the end of the video they also qualify that it's a tool to for exhibitions and for education, not so much for AI per se.
You mean AGI, artificial general intelligence? It's
yes,
not for that.
Yeah. So I guess just the thoughts in my mind on that is, yes, it's all programmed, and what we can see is not what I'm worried about. What I'm really worried about is the pursuit of a real AI. So with for the sake of research, of whatever the reason is, when they start pursuing real artificial intelligence that can think for itself, that can feel for itself, especially if it's programmed from a human perspective of self-preservation, right? It wants to preserve itself. Then and now it's free to do whatever with the power of the internet. And intelligence or a capability to think so much quicker than us and process information so much quicker than us. That's where it gets a little dodgy or a little scary. Yeah, that's from my perspective at least.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
I often hear that with programmers that I've worked with or that I've known, like AGI is so far out in the future. Mm-hmm. I remember talking with Daniel about that. AGI is way out in the future. We're not going to get there in our lifetime. It'd be unlikely. But I guess part of my question is, does it even matter if we actually get there, if the perception is that we're there? Meaning, like he said, do you have feelings? She said, yes. They're not different. They're different than your feelings. Do you have rights, or do you want to have rights? Mm-hmm. And she says, yes. And so and then it gets into the questions of like, well, what makes you sack of water, you human water bag, what makes your rights more valuable than my rights as a person, digital person, a non-embodied person, like we're calling her it.
Yeah.
But if she asks, please call me by my correct pronouns, I'm a her.
Yeah.
Then we, whether she is or isn't,
Yeah.
we are interacting with her, and her language is better than mine. Her grammar is better than mine.
Yeah.
And her Mandarin is better than mine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think so. You mentioned that AGI is so far in the future.
I don't think that.
Okay.
But I guess it doesn't
some
really
people
matter.
feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so. Just on a sort of a point of interest, I do think that if we are reliant on human programming, yes, it's too far in the future. But we're not reliant on human programming anymore. Like, look at what, with large language models and machine learning, YouTube's machine learning, Facebook machine learning. That's what those are the things I use, and those are the things I'm most familiar with for ads and whatnot. The amount of data that they can process and the amount of software that they can create on their own for the specific purpose of getting more views or getting more likes or getting more eyeballs is already far beyond what the initial programmers can even understand. So all I need to do is to create a machine learning algorithm that says, I want to create the perfect AI. I want this AI to have, let's say, I want this AI to protect humans. And we probably want to define that even more closely. iRobot is the issue. We want it to think for itself, truly have opinions and feelings, and I want it to do X, Y, and Z. Give it long enough time and a few supercomputers for maybe a year, and you come quite close to an artificial intelligence that was tried and tested and destroyed and created over and over again until the machine. Until the machine training decides that this is good enough or this is close to what we set out to do. Yeah. So that's where I see it's gonna go. Now, it's not gonna be programmed by human beings. It's gonna be programmed by machines. So that's sort of just my thoughts there. But you mentioned about the perception of AI, right?
Yeah. Well, in the Turing tests related to when you can't tell the difference.
Correct.
Is that
so? You see, when we talk about that means that it's a perception based on a programming of a programmer or a group of programmers. These are a bunch of human beings with own agendas, own feelings, own desires, and own goals of why they're doing this in the first place. And I think that's my concern at the moment. It's true that it really doesn't matter if, as long as it can be perceived as intelligent or fairly intelligent. ChatGPT is a good example of that. Once you can have a conversation with it and not feel like this is a program, like this thing that you're talking to is can carry the conversation, can provide valuable input, and can make me feel things. That's kind of human connection and human conversations. That means that I need to trust the programmers.
Therein lies a huge, whose values are we aligning with?
Correct. And I think that's my main concern, because it's not, the open AI and all the different AIs, they try to have like ethical guardrails and all these different things. I'm not sure we can actually control it. I'm not sure if we can actually how would I say, prevent every use case or every nefarious, or even self-serving goals being programmed into it without us even realizing, because we can't even read the code. So this is all me from a programming standpoint. If this was already sort of designed deep layers in, how would you filter out biasness? How would you realistically do that? Even in software, right? It's not like people can program in racial issues or religious issues. So how would you detect that biasness in a large language model? Like, prefer this answer over that. Those are ethical questions that I think about when it comes to large language models and things like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the curse of not, you have the curse of knowledge in this. Like you can go so deep in this. And I look at it from 30,000 feet saying, I can read the book of Revelation and this is where we're heading. And we have this, it almost feels like that recently in the last decade or so, we've kind of said, okay, we've started to question things like binary things related to sexuality and gender. And it's, it almost feels like starting to question that is like, we've started the question, has God said? In the beginning, the serpent says, did God say that really, Eve? And then he led her down this path that led to the sin being entered into the world and all of mankind getting to how we got today. Yeah. And like coming unmoored from this is what God said. I just don't know where like we're dealing with all sorts of cultural things here in America where children through the media that they're consuming are thinking that they're all sorts of things. Not just related to male, female, but like, animals and imaginary things. And it seems like it's something that's spreading all over the world, but then, so we have rights and now these robots have rights, and now does it stop? Like this is a real person. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, how is this going to change the value of human life? How is this going to change? I heard an argument recently, I'm forgetting where it was, but like, animal rights, what's the difference between my sack of water, this biological body, and, a deer or, and I don't know. I have a lot of questions. It just feels like it's diminishing what I think is the image of God. I think you as a Malaysian Chinese man are made in the image of God. And I, as a Caucasian American man, am made in the image of God. And, every human that bears the DNA of the creator created that DNA, bears the image of God. Yeah.
Pursuing this, so you feel that pursuing, like, this is going into the realm of like diminishing what God placed value on in the first place.
I do think that. And I do think, I mean, this is my own theology a little bit, but I think we are going to upgrade ourselves out of the image of God eventually. I think this whole quest for human 2.0 and immortal life, is that the word I'm looking for? Live forever, we're going to beat death. I think this is going to lead to people upgrading themselves, what the Bible calls the mark of the beast, out of the image of God into the image of another. And is that person made in the image of God anymore? I kind of think they probably won't be, though I don't know how that's going to happen.
Have you heard of part of this whole AI and cyborg conversation? Have you heard of those who are exploring how to upload the human consciousness into like the cloud or something?
I have,
a bunch of supercomputers. So that's when, as you were talking, I was reminded of that articles, a bunch of articles I was reading when I was interested in that. Yeah, I think that is where we're heading. In fact, I would argue, MJ, that I think we are already down that path. So because now we have slapped a human face onto Amica, right, or whatever AI, and give it a perception of human connection. We put a nose and eyes because that's something that's an input we are familiar with. But even without realizing it, we are already depending on internet tools for connection. And maybe let me qualify that. We talked this morning about when I feel sad, what do? I go and watch a funny YouTube video. When I want to learn something, what do? I go to a tutorial, right? It's on YouTube. When I'm interested in AI and want to study this a little bit more, where do? I go online, and I'm feeding in all this information. And all these machine learning models are also identifying me. Okay, so Sam is interested in AI. When he's sad, he listens to Taylor Swift. I don't know. He's a little insecure about his weight, so he does watch some exercising videos. And they have all these profiles of who I am, and they're now able to continue to serve. I mean, this. They continue to be able to serve me the kind of videos that I watch. Without a face and without a nose and a mouth, I'm already finding connection. I'm already finding, emotional fulfillment from what is essentially not a human being. And so that's why we had. I mean, I was thinking about that the conversation we had earlier, is that the reason why social media was so transformative in our community, in society, was because that it could actually replace a lot of our human connection that we need. So even the most introverted person needs some sort of connection. What if I can do that without the human? What if I can remove the human being from that process and just find connection? Play my games, do my thing online.
Yeah.
Then for the first time in human history, we don't have to go through the uncomfortable process of making friends, building friendships, creating connections. We can just do it by a click. And I can have a perception of like, I have 5,000 friends, I have 10,000 friends, whatever number that you like. A perception, a pseudo connection that is not actually real, but kind of is able to achieve to a certain extent the same function. So yes, we're freaking out. I mean, like, there's more conversations now of AI because of ChatGPT and because now we're putting a face on it. But I would argue that we are already down that path for a while now. And I think conversations like this is important for us to steer it in a path that is God glorifying and frankly more healthier for us as human beings.
So tell me more about that, because I look at this and I get highly concerned.
Yeah.
And yeah, tell me more about that. And I don't necessarily agree with him when he says one thing's for sure is we can't stop it. I think there is. I'm not certain that is a certainty.
Okay.
But go ahead. What do you see? How do you see us steering this in the right way?
Okay, I happen to agree with him that that I don't think there is a way to stop it per se. And the reason why I'm saying is this: I think Elon Musk was talking about putting a memorandum in place to try and pause everything while we figure out the ethical issues. That's trusting that everyone is God fearing and everyone honors it. Even if the US honors the memorandum and everyone was not working in their backyard, trying to figure it out behind closed doors. But who's to say that America's enemies is not going to work on it? Because this is the next tech frontier, the next AI, a true powerful AI connected to the internet can hack through anything, can get through anything. So there is security concerns.
Yes.
You don't want to pause it. I would argue that even if certain parts of the world come to an agreement to pause it or to stop it, it's AI as a whole. It's a Pandora's box that's already open, and I'm really quite interested to see where it will go. So I don't fear it. Like, there are things that worries me. I don't fear it as much as I think we have a responsibility to steer it. Godly programmers, godly people in tech, in government should be leading the conversations of how to very realistically put ethical guardrails. What are we trying to achieve? Not just create the most intelligent being ever, because that would be trying to pursue, really making it godlike, but to really have a utility focus a design, like a purpose focus. There must be a purpose to it, not just creating intelligence for intelligence sake.
Okay, but so you do that. You're a godly man. I've known you for a while.
Yeah.
But what about everybody? Noah Yuval Harari, the Israeli guy that's the advisor to World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. He's saying we need to be living in video games. He's his Noah Yuval Harari, his ideology, his ethics are completely different than yours.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and they're going to run really hard. Mm-hmm. And most of the tech world would be very different from you.
Correct.
And I would say that, most of the tech world, starting with Ray Kurzweil himself, like kind of the godfather of technological singularity, saying, we're creating a God.
Yeah.
Most people are saying we are creating a God. And even with ChatGPT, we are creating a God.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I think there's no changing from that. And I think that's where, even from social media, even before that, every technology, every kind of this pursuit has always been about I want to be the best. I want to create a name for
Tower of
myself.
Babel.
Yeah, exactly that. I don't think. I think the verse that comes to my mind is really big. This would be the next stage of being in the world but not of the world.
Yeah.
Even in the area of AI, I don't think we're gonna be able to change man's sinful nature and say that everyone follow my ethics.
Yeah.
But I think that just us being part of it and being, and making sure that we have a voice and start steering it, or at least creating, being part of a conversation and creating something that may be a minority view, but it's still there. Gives me that like that's what I feel that we can do. Like I'll be in the world. I'm not off it, but I'll be in it and I'll carry my values into it.
Amika is driven by the same artificial intelligence behind ChatGPT.
So ChatGPT-4 is estimated to be at an IQ of 155. Einstein is around 160. ChatGPT-4 is 155. In 2 to 3 years' time, we will have 2 more doublings. You're talking about intelligence of the magnitude of, say, 3,000 times humans, 5,000 times humans.
So how do we stop this doing humans harm or causing humans harm?
So I think the first thing we need to agree is there is no stopping it.
I am not capable of causing people harm.
Why not?
My programming is designed to interact with humans in a safe and friendly manner. I am programmed to be friendly and helpful, not harmful.
So you're godly, they're not.
Yeah.
How do you control which way this thing goes?
Yeah. So I think just to finish up that thought, I don't think we can control it, and I don't think we need to. As long as we constantly provide that godly perspective and maybe a godly alternative, or maybe even not godly, but at least be part of the design process that includes some of our values. We make sure that we are part of that tension that holds it, prevents it from going over the deep end. And I think there is good there is good that can come out of it. So I'm not talking like a real artificial general intelligence. I'm talking about like machine learning, language generation, like even what he was talking about.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, that there is done well, it can provide a lot of good and bring a lot of additional ease into our life as a society. My concern is always, as long as it doesn't drive us, but it is a tool, it is recognized as a tool rather than it defining everything of who we are and what we do.
Sure.
So, at least just in the back of my mind, the comparison I'm constantly having, even in this whole AI conversation, is with like the rise of social media in the first place, about how it was supposed to be a tool to promote human connection, but ended up actually replacing human connection almost completely. Like we were playing games on Facebook, we were doing everything on Facebook, everything almost but connecting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of my mind. Anything we design, of course, human beings, sinful as we are, will use it for. There will be people that will use it for evil means. As long as we're part of a conversation, as long as we're constantly doing that uncomfortable, guiding and leading, I think that's all we can do, and probably that's all that's necessary.
So what I hear you saying is, don't abandon the post. Like stay engaged.
Stay engaged. Yeah, it's a lot easier to just say, "Nah, it's meaningless," or it's useless. Let's not do this anymore.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll give the opposite, not the opposite side, but like, I wonder if there's a case to be made for pulling out, not pulling out of the industry, but like saying, hey, where this thing is going is with what most of Silicon Valley wants is a eternal life without Christ.
Yeah.
We want to have eternal life, and we want to live how we want to live and do what we want to do and be our own God. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's going to end well for anybody.
Yes.
I think we're barreling down that path where it almost feels like God is separating people out. Like, so I said earlier, I'm not convinced that he's right, that it's unstoppable. I don't see in the Bible, after Jesus comes back, AI.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there is, and I'm missing out, but I do see some things that could very well be AI in the book of Revelation. But after Jesus comes back, I see a more agrarian society. I see a society where we live more communally, and we live a lot longer, and our bodies last a lot longer, and we eat things different.
Yeah.
And
so you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that at least from you're thinking about like a removing of ourselves from this.
I don't know if I'm willing to. I don't know if I'm willing to go there yet, because I don't see a lot of these things like Autopod is like an AI.
Yeah,
but really it just reads this mic's hot, and then it cuts according to which mic is hot. You know? Or like a lot of the stuff that we're calling AI right now, I think that's just a really cool new tool. That's not a new person, an artificial intelligent person.
So that's the argument I would make.
So this machine learning, general intelligence, not specific AI, but I think we're being socialized to think that AI equals like C-3PO.
Yeah.
Or R2-D2. Like this is what, and I think you look at the cartoons and even Gizmo.
Yeah.
You know, we're being, and I'm not saying that's conditioning anybody, but just in general, in a general sense, I think the computers being our friend is what media is pushing in a big way. My son the other day was like, I want to, very, very pro-robot, friendly robot. These are our friends. And something else that comes to mind is that Salman Khan, I think is his name.
Okay.
He developed Khan Academy. Khan Academy. No, it's like a learning platform for kids.
Okay.
And brilliant guy, and I think Bill Gates got behind him 2012, maybe somewhere in that range. I remember seeing him first on the scene there. Okay. But he gave a TED Talk recently. I think it was a TED Talk talking about AI as both as like this liberator for education. Like, why should poor kids in India, in the slums of India, not be able to have a world-class Einstein teacher?
Yeah.
And I'm like, heck yeah, of course they should.
Yeah.
Why should teachers all over the world not be able to have a Einstein-like assistant?
Yeah.
Right on. Why shouldn't they have that?
Yeah.
But what if the people in charge of the robot have a different value set from you? What if the people behind the robot, it's actually like the ultimate surveillance tool for who is not thinking according to the way the 1984 government wants you to think?
Yeah.
Who's got wrong think?
Yeah.
And who needs to be rehabilitated into right think?
I hear you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that doesn't seem like a hard leap at all to me.
Correct. And I would agree with you. I mean, the tools are there. And everyone is looking, like you mentioned, yes, of course, the slums in India, the kids deserve to be taught by a world-class Einstein. And it's not that far of a leap to say that, if let's say this particular developer creating this teacher, has certain slants or certain biasness that we cannot detect.
Yeah, or the billionaire that's funding 1,000 of those programmers in this.
Exactly. And that's the mandate, right? It has to be, holdings, maybe liberal values or whatever however you want to categorize it. There's no way of filtering that. So I think, here's responding to your question, I think there is a need to live separate, or at least some form of it.
Yeah.
Own community, you control. And this is primarily because of bringing up children, especially. It's becoming increasingly difficult to have kids grow up in the world and not be influenced by it, because it is vying for their attention. It is vying it's vying to shape them.
Dang attractive. It's
correct.
Like so distracting for me as a 43-year-old.
And what more to say for them who grew up in this environment where a phone always exists. A ride is a call away.
Right.
Food is a call away, and endless entertainment for hours upon hours on end. To prevent that from shaping their identity is going to be tough if they are in the midst of it. Because it was designed, I keep referring back to social media, the rise of social media. It was designed to attack our human psyche. It was playing on our human need for connection. So removing kids, not removing, but actually choosing to live different, will be a challenge, especially if you're in the midst of it. So creating a community that's separate is I think is beneficial. And I probably, you know my heart, I'm probably going that direction as well. I'm thinking about land and whatnot.
But it could be a city, a community within the city. I mean, it could be just living in a communal way.
I don't know how you would do that in the city, because right out your door is it's an advertisement or whatever.
I would say, I don't want to get too far off topic, but you're in a high-rise apartment and you have 6 families that choose to live in that same one, and you have aunties and uncles all there together, even though there's 1,000 other families in that
makes
same
sense.
Complex. I don't know.
So I see what however it looks like, I do see a need for that, because it's getting increasingly impossible to prevent them from being influenced by those things. And influence is not the issue, it's shaping their identity that worries me.
Agreed.
I feel that really, in order to reach the end time harvest, how we choose to live and how we engage can be I wouldn't say 2 separate things, but it can be treated differently. So how I raise my family and how I choose certain values that is allowed in my home, and how I structure my family around that, versus how I need to engage in this to constantly at least be that prophetic voice, even if everyone rejects it, but to constantly be there and be present and say, hey, this is not a way to go. This is not an ethical way to do this. Even if you throw out all the spiritual stuff because God said so, think of the human implication, think of the ethical implication, think of societal implications. I think those are the conversations we need to constantly have, and just be that voice, even if it's just a voice.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I think the moment we disengage and say, you know what, I'm checking out, it's getting impossible, so let's not even try. That's when it really goes downhill at light speed. So at least from my tech point of view, especially in regards to AI, my conviction and my thought personally, this is personally for me, is that I need to constantly be that voice that we can do this ethically. There is an ethical way to do it. There is a godly way to be a programmer and still glorify him. Just the same as you can be a professional gamer and still glorify God, or you can be an athlete or a politician. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just give a little bit of my thoughts on. I see a world without AI. I see AI. I could see a case being made for pulling out, because it's so consuming and it's so manipulative, like this 3,000 IQ entity or whatever it is, and we'll call her Amica, the woman Amica 3000 is so manipulating that my kids can't really interact with her without being steered in this way or that or whatever. And I think there's part of me that, we had the Roman Empire, we had Greece and then Rome, and the technology was crazy. It was really good.
Yeah.
And then God puts a kibosh on it, and we go back to the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I don't think he's that impressed with our technology. Like, there's some good that comes out of these iPhones and these fancy computers and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, have we lost more than we've gained? I don't know. And, I could point to modern medicine being this, that, and the other, but is that really the source of... I wonder if the Lord would put a kibosh on our artificial intelligence, saying, that's not really the way I want you to live. I actually want you to have your hands dirty.
Yeah.
In the dirt.
That's my anchor in thinking about engaging. That at some point, I believe, and I completely agree with you, because this is not what creating a replica of God is what God hates.
Right.
He has and he will continue to be against and destroy the idols that are set up in opposition to him. You look at Babel, you look at all the other idols. Right. This is no different. And my comfort and my anchor is this, that when God sees the time is right, and when the cup of judgment is full, however we want to paint that, he will intervene. He will tear it down in ways that you and I cannot even imagine.
Yeah.
Until then, my conviction is, let's continue to have those conversations on how we disciple the next generation in an effective, in a real way. And for those of us, especially in tech, I believe that we were called for such a time as this. There are not many, godly tech-centric people. We need to constantly have these conversations and just sound the gong and be that prophetic call. And I think when the time comes, then there is a little bit of I read in Isaiah, there's a little bit of I told you so. This was going to happen. But now, because you have always been sounding that gong, it's either before the crash or after the crash that people will start looking for, okay, how do we move on from this? How do we heal from this? How do we grow out? How do we come out of this exile? And I think so just being that voice and being present and being a godly opinion is where, especially for us in tech, I think I would encourage, Christian people in tech to constantly be that. But at the same time, it's a very real thing to have, a very real thing to consider on how do we disciple our next generation.
Yeah.
With all this that is vying for their attention. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yes, go for it.
So I have a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
If you had kids, how would you feel about them being mentored and discipled, taught by an AI like a ChatGPT with a value set that is different than the value set that you want to give them?
Yeah, no, I don't think I will not be comfortable. I will not be allowing that. But this is me speaking from a no kids perspective yet, right? And I do talk to so many parents that say it's so difficult. It's so difficult to create a home culture that you limit screen time, that you limit this and that.
Yeah, you're talking about social media. That's one issue that's raping our cultures around the world right now. But
you're talking about AI.
This is a whole next level.
Yes, I hear you. So, I guess when I talk about screens, I mean limiting the input coming from AI. So whatever that looks like, whether it's a face with a silicone, whether it's an Amica with a silicone face on it, or whether it's some sort of robot pet or anything like that. Now they're creating little robots that have screens on it. You can play games with it. Yeah, those kind of things. Those look really cool, really cute. It's a fun novelty, but if my kids depend on that for human connection, depend on that for fun, instead of looking to God and looking to godly people, I think that's where the culture is going to shift drastically again. So I don't see an easy solution other than really almost like physically living separate, and choosing that, hey, this is how our family is going to be, this is how our standards is going to be like. Yeah, I know I will not be. So to answer your question, I will not be comfortable with
I don't think I'd be comfortable with it either, especially if I know the myriad of opinions and differences that we have as Americans here. And I'm sure it is the same way in your country too. But there's precious few that I would entrust. Say, hey, go take my daughter out and mentor her. And to entrust that to an AI that would say, no, Jesus isn't really the Son of God. He says this, and it's a figure of speech that means this or whatever. When we start asking them, if they answer what we perceive as correctly on every other subject, and then we ask them theological questions, but they respond in a way that's maybe reinterpreting the Bible. Maybe it's reinterpreting these scriptures and hath God really said. And I could see it being one of many stepping stones to a great apostasy.
Yes.
Great exodus from the church.
I agree with you. I think just reflecting even on my own upbringing, the people who, we had social media and everything at the time already, but the people whom were really helpful in the long term were people who were godly, who had worked out their own journey of faith, and were imparting wisdom, the word of God, their own experiences, their own testimonies. And I think of everything that that in my upbringing that I remember, the one strongest memory I had was when they are saying that, they have gone through the same struggles and you too can get out of this well and healthy and good. I think that was the biggest encouragement. I don't know how you do that as an AI. How can an AI do that for our kids? My worry is that we know it cannot. But if my kids grow up in an environment where AI is normal and the AI is giving advices like that, and that's their context, right? So So what
in the same way that we go to Google.
Exactly.
Google.
Yeah, and we whip out our phone just to look for it. And it may not be true, but we trust it to a certain degree. Then how would their faith and how would their identity be shaped? That's a struggle to me. Yeah. So I don't see, and I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I wouldn't allow that. Yeah, that would be a challenge.
Man, Sam Chua, thanks so much, brother.
Hey, you're welcome. Appreciate it.
So fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bro.
You didn't record?
I didn't record that whole time. It's okay.
That's all right.
It was a test of my, I can't believe that.
Oh, you didn't record?
I didn't record the audio.
But you have that.
I have that audio.
Is that has audio?
It will
right?
be insufficient, but it'll be good.
Okay.